Hi, El Sereno Jaguars. This is Miss Newman. I am your school librarian. Some of you remember me from last year. I'm going to be reading books throughout the year that demonstrate our IB attributes, and these are the traits that we are trying to show and trying to be examples of. And El Sereno Middle School has chosen the attribute of caring as the first one because caring is so important, especially right now. So many of us need a little extra care. So, what does caring mean? Caring is when our words and actions show caring and compassion for ourselves and others. And sometimes we forget the ourselves part, but it's really important to be kind and caring to ourselves because that even helps us to be kind and caring to other people. And then we are committed to making a positive difference in the world. So again, sometimes it's easy to be caring about our little group, our friends, or our family, but real caring means that we care for the whole world and we show compassion for the world. And everything in it. And the book that I'm going to be reading to you today is called The Invisible Boy. Here it is. And one of the things that has happened this year, and as we all come back to school and everything, is maybe some of us feel that we have been a little bit invisible over Zoom in our black boxes on the screen, and we haven't maybe been as connected. So I chose this book because I think partly one of the ways that we can show caring for each other is to help notice each other and to see each other in a way that makes sure that nobody's feeling invisible. So this is by Trudy Ludwig and illustrated by Patrice Barton, and it is called The Invisible Boy. And hopefully you'll get a chance after I read this to talk about it with your teacher in the class. The Invisible Boy. Can you see Brian, the invisible boy? Even Mrs. Carlotti has trouble noticing him in her classroom. She's too busy dealing with Nathan and Sophie. Nathan has problems with what Mrs. Carlotti calls volume control. He uses his outside voice inside too much. Sophie whines and complains when she doesn't get her way. Nathan and Sophie take up a lot of space. Brian doesn't. When the bell rings for recess, Micah and JT take turns choosing kids for their kickball teams. The best players get picked first, then the best friends of the best players, then the friends of the best friends. Only Brian is left, still waiting and hoping. JT glances in Brian's direction and just as quickly looks away. We got enough players for each team, he tells the others. Let's play ball. In the cafeteria, Madison and her friends talk about her birthday party. The rope swing over the pool was awesome, says JT. Yeah, so was the water slide, adds Fiona. That was the best pool party ever. I'm so glad you guys had fun, says Madison. Everybody did except Brian. He wasn't invited. At choosing time, when the other kids play board games and read, Brian sits at his table doing what he loves to do best. He draws fire-breathing dragons scaling tall buildings, greedy pirates digging for treasure, space aliens locked in intergalactic battles, and superheroes with the power to make friends wherever they go. On Monday morning, Mrs. Carlotti introduces Justin, a new student, to the class. Brian smiles shyly at him. Some of the other kids sneak looks at Justin, trying to figure out if he's cool enough to be their friend. They haven't quite made up their minds yet. At lunch, Madison and JT watch Justin eat with chopsticks. What's that? asks Madison as she points at Justin's food. It's bulgogi. Bul what? Bulgogi. It's Korean barbecue beef. My grandma made it for me. It's really good. You want to try some? There's no way I'd eat bulgogi. And the kids laugh. All of them, that is, except Brian. He sits there wondering which is worse, being laughed at or feeling invisible. The next day, when Justin goes to his cubby to put away his backpack, he notices a piece of paper with his name on it. Justin, I thought the bulgogi looked good. Brian, yum. At morning recess, Brian finds a piece of chalk on the ground and starts drawing away. You're Brian, right? Yeah. Thanks for the note. Hey, Justin, Emilio calls out from the tetherball court. You're up next. Sorry, I gotta go, says Justin. By the way, that's a really cool drawing, he adds before taking off. Back in class, Mrs. Carlotti asks the kids to team up in 2s or 3s for a special project. The kids scurry around the room to pair off. Brian heads towards Justin. I'm already with Justin, says Emilio. Find someone else. Brian looks at the floor, wishing he could draw a hole right there to swallow him up. Mrs. Carlotti said we can have up to 3 people in our group. We're only 2. Come on, Emilio, let him work with us. Okay, I guess. Mrs. Carlotti gives the class directions for the project. Your assignment is to work together to write a story about what you see in that photograph. Use your imagination and have fun. Whoa, cool, says Emilio. What kind of people you think would live in a house like that? I don't know, but I bet Brian could draw them to go with our story, says Justin. Brian smiles as he takes out his lucky pen. And there's their drawing, and they're playing, and they're writing. It's lunchtime again, Brian's least favorite part of the day. Another 20 long minutes of kids talking and laughing with everyone else but him. Brian, he hears someone shout. Hey, Brian, over here. Brian turns and sees Justin waving him over. Emilio nods at Brian as he makes room for him at the table. Cookie? Thanks. Maybe, just maybe, Brian's not so invisible after all. And that's the end of the story.